Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WhaTheArt, the Art HOA with Heart. Today we bring you our special guest, Bethan Davies. Bethan is a founder of the CraftStar.com and Brazine.com, and she started these as an entrepreneur after 25 years in the entertainment business. Can you tell us a little bit, don't go into a whole lot of detail because we don't want to seem nosy here, about your entertainment business and what, if anything, in that business was art involved, and why you changed over to the CraftStar e-commerce?
Oh, that's a long old question. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on as your guest. I really appreciate it. I hope I don't sound too ignorant about art because I'm not an artist. My 25 years in the entertainment industry started actually when I was in high school. My dad was in it, but he did films, and I loved radio. So when I was in high school, I convinced our local rock station that when I was 15, that I was 17, so I could volunteer there and answer the phones. And I got the job, and I did it for a summer, and I got hooked. So as soon as I left high school, I went straight in working into radio. I grew up in LA. I spent about 3 years in radio here, and then I moved to London. My parents are British, so I moved to London, and I went for 6 months and ended up staying 20 years. And my entertainment career grew up there. So I worked in radio, I worked in TV. As far as art goes into those, not a whole lot of art. It was mostly celebrity driven, but I guess with the TV show and sets and things, that's about as arty as I got. But what I did get the chance is in my last few years of living there, I worked freelance. So I would work 8-9 months a year straight out, like 24/7, just work, save every penny I could, and then I'd go travel. So I've traveled the world a couple times, and that really kind of matured my interest in art. I'm really fascinated by indigenous art, folk art, and I've always had a real fascination with the Renaissance. I've always loved Renaissance art, and I would love to go back in time into that era and have dinner with the Medici family. I want to move in with them. I want to meet Leonardo. Da Vinci is just, I've read everything I can about him. An incredible person, just unbelievable what he's done. I don't think people have any idea of what he's done beyond just his artwork. But the transition between the entertainment industry and the CraftStar was an illness I had. Quite a serious illness where I couldn't keep up the pace of the production work anymore. Those were very long days, 18-hour days in the studio, and I just couldn't do it physically. So while I was at home, I got out my crafting supplies again and started making jewelry. And someone suggested I start selling it on a site called Etsy, which I did. And through my time there, I think I was there a year, maybe 2 years, a year and a half, I started thinking that there needed to be an alternative site that actually was for the creative person, not just a site that was becoming like an eBay manufacturer. Something that really understood the creative spirit and knew that they were different personalities than a normal person. I always say being creative is both a blessing and a burden. And I think we deal with a lot of different issues than normal people deal with. And I think those need to be, I wanted to create a site that was aware of that and kind of addressed those people and helped those people and cared for those people. And that's where the CraftStar started.
Okay, that's a very interesting story, and I'm sure that many people didn't even know that about you because, as we discussed in the green room, that your bio kind of teases us but didn't fill in a whole lot of detail. So it was great to learn that about you.
Thank you.
I know you said you're not an artist, but you are creative, or you wouldn't have made the jewelry in the first place, because it takes a certain amount of creativity to be able to make different styles of jewelry and stuff and feel what other people would like. So with that in mind, what type of arts you were telling me about that you like especially?
Of other people's or my own?
Well, let's have both.
Okay. What I'm really interested in, and I've got to thank you because your prompting me yesterday with some questions that you were going to ask me today got me thinking about where my interest came from, and it's starting to make sense. I had never thought of it before. I'm not a organized religious person, but I am definitely spiritual. But I absolutely love religious art. My place is full of religious art of all different religions. And my godfather, my dad, as I said, was a producer. And my godfather was quite a famous producer, but he lived in Santa Fe. We lived in LA. And when they were producing films, he would come and stay with us in LA. And he was an artist, and he was also a born-again Catholic. He went to Mass every single day. So it's kind of weird him working in the entertainment industry, but being a very, very, very strict Catholic. And so I grew up with his painting all around me. And it didn't click until last night, reading your questions, that that's probably where my interest in religious art has come from. So he was so good at it, and finally his Catholic ideals made him quit the entertainment industry. They just didn't mesh anymore. And he became a full-time painter. And he became so good that he would get commissioned by churches, and I mean big, well-known ones, to I don't think copying is the right word, but to create versions of famous artwork. So he would go over to the big museums in Europe and spend weeks staring at one piece of art so that he could come back and replicate it for churches. And it was fascinating watching him do that. And I think that must be where my interest has come from. So whenever I travel, I bring back try to bring back an indigenous piece of art, and also their local religion, whether it's indigenous or an organized religion piece of art. So my place is just packed full of art. I also absolutely adore folk art, and I guess it all comes from the same thing. It's all kind of very heartfelt art. If that makes sense.
Sure, it does. And that's one thing as a creative is we put our heart into the art, and that's what a lot of times I think makes it so difficult for us to explain it to others, is because it's such a difficult task to explain feelings. Mm-hmm. How you were feeling today is what went into this painting. And you can tell the artists that are painting for money versus painting for the love of what they're doing.
I absolutely agree with that, and even I live in Venice, California, so the boardwalk is really close to me, and that's full of local artists, and you can see, just go walking along that, they're pumping out art as fast as possible because of all the tourists, but you can see who feels it and who's just pumping it out. You can totally feel that by looking at it. That's an really interesting point.
Well, it looks like we got a lot of people here saying hi. We got Jay Richardson, we got Rhonda Green, we have
Sherry.
CraftStar snuck in. Sherry Whitfield is here, and they're all saying hi. And Rhonda's saying you're indeed an artist. So welcome everyone. We're glad to have you in the show audience today.
I think using the term artist is hard for a lot of people, because I think the term comes with expectations in our own heads. So jewelry is just one of the things I do. I make everything. I make all kinds of just weird stuff. And whether somebody would call that artistic, to me it's not. To me it's just what I do as a hobby, or it's something in my head that I've just got to create. So, I don't know how to explain it. I think there's a difference between being there's a difference in perception of being a creative person and an artist. And I certainly would never have called myself an artist. And I've tried everything. I've people in the room know this, heard it several times. I've gone through every pretty much crafty stage possible. But if there's one thing I cannot do is I cannot draw and I cannot paint to save my life. But that's because I don't have the patience, mostly. If I can't nail something the first or second try, I give up. I just am not that good of a student in that way. But I love art, especially, again, back to the Renaissance period. I love Hieronymus Bosch. I love all the detail. I love all the depth. I appreciate the art, but I know that's something that I'm never going to be part of.
Okay. You made some comments about this while we were in the green room, too. That's the painting we're going to finish up today during the demo portion. You want to kind of explain to the audience what you were telling me about the feel of it?
Yeah, you asked me what I thought of it, and initially I said it reminded me of a series of pyramids. But I think what I was trying to say, which was misunderstood, was it had some kind of ethereal feel to it. The way the colors mesh into each other. When you brought it down and gave me more detail in the green room, the way that you've put the clouds around the mountains, this to me is a spiritual piece of art. It's not, it's something done with heart. It's not just something, a paint by numbers bit.
And it is. My paint by number days are long, long gone. I had those, I was 9. That's why I got to start painting, actually.
Oh, really?
Okay.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, my parents bought me 2 oddest things you'd ever expect for a 9th birthday, because my birthday and Christmas were so close together. I got a guitar and a paint by number paint set for painting tall ships.
Ah, were your parents artsy?
No, not really. I wouldn't say they were. My mom was a seamstress, but if she didn't have a pattern from the store, she couldn't do anything with the sewing machine. If she had a pattern, she could embroider or knit or crochet, but without it, she couldn't do it on her own. And I grew up with my stepdad, and he really wasn't creative type personality either.
Were you encouraged to be creative when you were young?
I guess more or less by the things my parents got me, because in addition to the guitar, another year they got me a wood burning set.
Oh, okay.
So I did a lot of drawing on scrap wood and everything where I could scrape it up at construction sites around where we lived or wherever. So did they verbally encourage it? No. In fact, a lot of times when I was practicing on the guitar, I would get some decidedly not positive back.
I was very lucky with a mom who encouraged my creative side. I can remember, gosh, I must have been like 5, and my dad was a smoker, and I had this idea that I wanted to melt my crayons, and I wanted to make a picture of with melted wax. I have no idea where that idea came from at that time, and she wouldn't let me play with matches on my own, but she sat with me, and I would tell her what color I wanted to go where, and I made a painting out of melted crayons, and she was in control of the matchbook. So I can remember things like that, and I went through a calligraphy stage, and they would get me what I would want if I showed that I was really going to stick with it. They realized very quickly I wasn't a painter, and that drawing was never my thing. So we didn't go down the paint brush route and the paint set route. We didn't have a whole lot of money, so they certainly didn't waste it. But they could see that I had some kind of creative need, and I still have that. Have you watched any of Gary's shows that we've done on the CraftStar?
On your Monday nights, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what got you hooked into being over here.
Oh, well, we need to get you Gary. Gary's who you need to talk to. He's the one, when I said earlier that being creative is a blessing and a burden, he's the one that's really helped me turn that burden side into it as a blessing. So when I get frustrated, or when I'm scared, or when I'm nervous about showing people something, he's the one that's really helped me break out of that box. And again, I think that goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about calling yourself creative or an artist. That takes a lot of guts. You know, I applaud everybody who goes out there and shows people their handmade work. I mean, that takes A, talent, but B, some guts for doing it, and good on you. And that's why I think the CraftStar is so important, and that's what I really want to nurture. But the burden part of it, you know, if you think in a certain way, you can turn that burden into a benefit. And one of the things I've learned through him is I was getting so frazzled with just being a businesswoman, because I've been creative. My jobs have been creative all my life. Being a producer was a creative experience. And I make sure every day now, at the end of the day, I do something creative. And when I don't, I get really, and then Rhonda gets nasty emails from me. So she will still appreciate the creativity.
Well, that leads us very handily into our next question. How has art helped your business in the past, and how is it helping you currently today?
Again, it's defining the word art. Now, before we started talking, in my head, art is what you do, is paint pictures. But I think art and creativity are so intertwined that, how has art helped me? I guess my creativity has helped me through my career. I got paid as a producer for coming up with new ideas all the time. So that was the creative side with that. And then as far as the CraftStar is concerned, it's not only nurturing my creativity, but all our members as well. And it's so important to me to give creative small businesses a home where they're really appreciated, educated, welcomed, loved, cared for. They're special people. Creatives are different people. You know, a lot of us are whack jobs, believe me. We're absolutely nuts. But we are different than the average Joe, I think.
I have to agree with you there. We're definitely different. Okay, now this is the question that I get asked for everybody that comes onto the show. And we've all heard that we need social media today. And it seems we're inundated, whether we're on Facebook or Google Plus or Twitter. Somebody somewhere is pitching to us that we need to be on social media. And the reason why is what I like to refer to as human-to-human relationships. Not business to business, not person to person, but that human-to-human side where we kind of touch one another's heart, so that we share those special connections in what we do. And I think, as you probably have mentioned with the special website for the CraftStar, is that it's especially true of an artist if we're trying to sell ourselves. Because that's our job, really. We're not selling art. We're not in the business of selling art. We're in the business of selling what we are, what we can do, so that other people can have that piece of us in their home or office or wherever. So what advice would you give to an artist just starting out on social media?
Whew, that's a big question. Social media has changed so much. It changes daily, you know, but it has really changed in the last year as far as how you should approach it. If you're an e-commerce seller, it's crucial you're involved with social media. It drives me insane when I get emails saying, I'm not getting any sales, this site sucks, so I'm going somewhere else. And then you see they do nothing to promote themselves. And that's just not possible anymore. You know, the world is too full of people out there trying to sell stuff. You have got to be involved in social media. How you do that is up to you, but there are definitely ways to do it. Rather than make this a 2-hour chat, we have on CraftStar TV on YouTube, we did a 6-week boot camp on social media at the beginning of the year. So we focused on 6 different major forms of social media with experts in those fields, and they told us how we should be approaching each route of social media. Very useful to watch if you have time to go back and look at that. So it's CraftStar TV on YouTube. But the overall message is, it's not, if you're an e-commerce seller, which we all are, it's not a pitching game anymore. It's not list. That doesn't work. It's too much in people's faces. And that totally also gels with what I had learned in my ending days in the broadcast industry, is that you can't just yell out a message anymore and expect everyone to get it. You've got to be very targeted now. Radio as we know it is not going to exist in 3 or 4 years. It doesn't make sense to be blasting out one message to that many people. People aren't listening to the radio. They're listening to Pandora, they're listening to iHeart Music, whatever, they're listening to their own playlists. Same thing in social media. You've got to find a way of building relationships, as you were saying, the human to human, which I think is actually something that's much easier for us creatives to do than a lot of e-commerce sellers, because every single piece has a story. And we've said this a million times in the show, that every piece that you make, every day of your life, you have a story to tell of your creativity. Somebody who's selling pots and pans doesn't have that. And you've got that special piece that you can start building relationships with. There's so many technical parts of social media, and how Google has changed the world about moving from SEO into what they call semantic search, and it's all about, they can actually see, rather than just keywords that you use to get into Google search, they're watching what your relationship building is. And while they call it the Google Karma Wheel. It's fascinating. And if you're a bit of a nerd, get a book by David Amerland called The Semantic Search by Google. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And it's very creative. So basically what they were trying to do is figure out a way for people to stop gaming the search game. So people were figuring out the Google algorithms and gaming it so that it could come up on page 1 and page 2 of search. And Google was thinking, we've got to figure out a way to get around this, because the good people aren't getting to the top. It's the people that are spending the 24 hours a day gaming the system. So they changed the algorithm to the semantic search, where you're rewarded through Google for the relationships that you build. They can see everything that you're doing. And that's why on the CraftStar we have a dedicated promotion team for the CraftStar, for all our sellers, is because we are building that semantic search for everybody, because it's going to help them. So how important is social media for e-commerce sellers? We say 70-30. 70, is that what we say? 70-30? Yes, 70-30. 70% creativity, 30% social media. You can't do one or the other. It has to be both. And what we're really trying hard to do, and have been trying hard to do, is that most of us, at least me, when I finish a piece of jewelry, I'm done with it. I never want to see that thing again. But, in our game, what we have to do is not only finish it, but love it enough to take a photo of it, to write a description of it, to post it on the CraftStar, and then to start getting people's attention for it, right? So that's a business job. It's a creative business job, but it's a business job. I'm not making jewelry anymore. I'm trying to sell that sucker. So what we're trying to do is make it as seamless as possible, to make sure people realize that once you're finished that piece of whatever realm that you're working in, you're not done with it. You still got 30% of your job left to do. And to be successful, there's no way around it in e-commerce.
Okay,
I
thank
talk
you.
a lot, don't I?
But you brought out some very valid points. And these are things that if we have any artists watching now or watching later, need to be able to hear. Because creatives are probably the worst marketers out there. Because our marketing is more tied into what we put on our canvas or what we make in that sculpture, what we make in that piece of jewelry or carved wood or whatever, or etched glass, rather than what marketing traditionally is. And social media gives us plenty of avenues so that we can approach this, like this HOA. Without this HOA, I probably wouldn't be near as effective in presenting my artwork to other people as I would be just trying to get people to see the work somewhere on a corner.
Mm-hmm. And good for you, because it's not an easy step to take. It's, you know, we do live sales on the CraftStar for our artists. We do interviews with the featured artists and things, and we find a lot of artists are very shy. And it's not only camera shy, it's shy in showing your work. And Gary, going back to him and the shows that he does, has helped. I've had so many emails thanking Gary for the things that he's taught them about getting over those boundaries and being proud of what you do, and you know, not hiding behind your work and breaking out of your boxes. And you know, you need to hear all those things to be the successful creative business person that you need to be in this world. You can't just paint, and hope people are going to find you. It doesn't work that way.
Very, very true. Now we got one. There's the wife.
Hello.
So now we come to the part that is just for you, Bethan. Do you have any questions you'd like to know the answers about that you'd like to ask me?
I would love to learn how to paint. I always have a real problem with clouds. They look like sheep. So maybe that's something that we can talk to you about art classes. I did tell you something in the green room that I would love to know if there are art-dedicated websites. My mom inherited a huge amount of artwork from a famous-ish local artist who had a really big following for a while, and he sadly died, and my mom inherited all the work. And it's fantastic. But as I don't know this world at all, I have no idea what to do with it. And we've got it all photographed, it all cataloged, and all blah, 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 blah. Where do I go with it? The CraftStar is not the right kind of place.
No. You're looking for more of a fine art venue. You can start, I would suggest, talking to Jason Jorges at xanadugallery.com. I believe that's the right address. But he's on Google+. Jason Jorges, H-O-R-J-E-A-S, I want to say, or A-S. Shame on me.
No, don't worry. We'll find him. We'll find him. Don't you worry.
The other thing you can do is there are several online galleries. Some of them are attached to more stable gallery environments instead of just one of the pop-ups. DeviantArt, Redbubble, and things like that aren't going to be what you're looking for. What you're going to look for is someone like C.me, Xanadu Gallery's online gallery. There's another one, but I can't think what the name of it is right away. Like I said, if you contact Jason and tell him that I sent you over to
thank you.
Ask about it, that, you know, we've conversed somewhat through comments and emails. I wouldn't say we have a strong relationship, but I could pick up the phone and call him if he had the free time he'd spend it with me. He's just so busy as a gallery on that.
That's kind of you. Thank you very much.
And the other thing would be watch for when the roadshow comes to your area.
Ah.
The PBS special of the roadshow.
Okay.
Because there are some very qualified people there that deal in arts and statuary and different
From
things.
unknown artists as well?
I'll bet that if they didn't know it, they could probably get you an answer within a week or so.
Wow, interesting. Fascinating.
These guys are pros that show up on that. This is what they do daily, is deal with that odd and unusual and unique thing. That's why the roadshow is so popular, because people can bring in and find out what it's worth. And a lot of times it may not be worth much, but the story they got behind it was worth a fortune.
Yeah.
And so they're just as happy.
See, okay, you just pinned exactly what I was talking about in social media. Every piece has a story, and that's what we all need to keep in mind. Anybody who's using social media for the creative work, think about the story behind the piece. So for you, I'm going to turn it back on you, Tim. On this painting that we're looking at, what were you thinking? Where did this inspiration come from? What's the story?
Well, actually, this painting kind of started out with the cloud demonstration last week. After the show, I fiddled with the clouds a little bit and kind of did some feeling. And I said, well, let's do this, and let's play with this a little bit. A lot of my paintings, in fact, the most popular ones, seem to be the ones that I'm not really dedicated to getting into. It's just I'm enjoying them. I'm having fun. Okay. So that this one started out, okay, well, maybe I'll show them. We did clouds this week. Maybe I'll show them mountains. And so I laid in the background for the mountains. And then the paintbrushes and paints, by that point, they're calling my name, and it just kept growing so that it wound up to this point here. In fact, the reason it's here is that we're going to let the audience decide if we put anything else in it. And you get to participate too. And if we put something else in this painting, what do you want to see me do?
Well, I'm so glad that your clouds are absolutely perfect and look nothing like sheep. And I love the way that you've, I don't know about art, so if what I'm saying is complete nonsense, please just shut me up. But I love the way that you've sculpted the mountains around the clouds, and I love the way, I can't believe this isn't a finished piece. I'm shocked to hear that. I love the way it all just seems to kind of flow. And the way the water reflects the sky and the mountains reflect the sky. I mean, I wish I could do that.
Well, we'll have to see what we can do about helping you figure that out.
Thank you. I have a question. How many colors would you have used to create what you have done so far, and how many different paintbrushes?
Let me go over here, and we'll just move the camera, and I'll show you.
Okay.
Let's go to this camera over here.
You got a professional setup going here, dude.
Well, I could use some better cameras.
Do you know who's an amazing artist who's in the room? Carrie DeAugustine, a fabulous artist.
So here's the brushes and everything. I didn't use this one. This one was not part of the process. So there are the brushes I used along with the two palette knives. Bring this up a little bit here. That must have bumped it. As you can see.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This palette knife here.
Oh, everything's so clean.
For mixing the paint. There we go. It's just, I call it a mixing knife. This is what I use to make the mountains. The backgrounds and everything, and the brushes are the black brushes, the little wooden handled one, and the smaller maroon handled.
Do you ever do mixed media art?
There they are, right there. Let's see if we can get look, brush. There's titanium white. This is a mix of a little bit of titanium white, a little bit of sap green, and a little bit of phthalo green. This is a mix of phthalo green, ultramarine blue, and just a hint of black. Then there's ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, and cerulean blue. And I mix the rest of my colors from there to get the tonal qualities and feel that I want in the painting. In fact, painting mountains is one of the oddities about my art, in that it's the only artwork I do that I actually use white paint as a base.
Oh.
Normally, I don't care for white. Oh, I come undone. You can't hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're good.
I can hear me, but I can't hear you. There we go. Let's see.
That's not a bad thing. What I was saying earlier is that Carrie, who's in the audience, when the CraftStar works for the CraftStar, one of the CraftStar sellers, is an amazing artist, and she does lots of multimedia work. Do you ever incorporate multimedia into your artwork?
I guess I can honestly say no.
Okay.
This is the media, multimedia, as far as it goes with the artwork. I've had requests, like you mentioned, you would like to learn to paint. I've had requests that I do bed and breakfast paint workshops, where they come into the bed and breakfast, they paint in the evening, they get there, have a little wine, have a little painting, then we go again Saturday.
Wonderful idea.
And then we leave them be, and then they enjoy the Sunday to themselves before they go home. That's gaining more and more popularity. The trick is finding a bed and breakfast to work with in this area. I haven't looked into painting lessons yet. I've just been doing these demonstrations. And poor Cheryl Deuce is buried with work today, so she has to watch our replay.
Do you know about Google Helpouts?
The community?
No. You can offer your services to people for a fee. So you can offer painting lessons, and you can offer them in 15-minute blocks or half-an-hour blocks or an hour block. Check out Google Helpouts. You've got to go through an approval system. But if you were interested in teaching painting classes, that could be a really good way to go.
Well, it's kind of tough for me right now. I like the idea, and I enjoy helping others. I don't have a problem of showing what I do, because no matter how good my painting may or may not be, you are not going to paint the exact same painting I am, because your personality is going to come through in the paint. If you're painting exactly like I'm painting, you're either still on the techniques, which is okay for a little while, or you're doing copies. And if you're going to be a copier, you might as well just photocopy pictures or something. It's because you want you in the painting. What makes it special to you on that subject? Now, I've seen a lot of the country, like in this painting here. There's some beautiful country in the United States, Canada, and Alaska that most people will never see. And that is the well that I tap to decide what creativity. Like this one up here in my background. You can see the one, must have been my hand up here. You see, nope, I'm not going to be able to do it. But it's there. You see the little black camera on the tripod there by the door. There's a painting that we did the 3D effect on back there. And the funny thing was, my wife told me, that looks strange. I've never seen a sky like that. And then last week she comes look. She says, hey, look at this photograph. She says, it's got your sky in it.
Oh, that's a compliment.
So, you know, that's what it's based on. It's based on, my paintings and creativity are based on my experiences that I've shared either through traveling the country or attending special events or that sort of thing. And so, yeah, painting for someone else and helping them learn how to paint, I don't have any problem with it at all. So,
technique, probably, right?
yeah, exactly. I'll teach you the basic techniques, and you're going to reach a point where I'm going to say, okay, I'll mentor you. I'll encourage you along there. If you get stuck, I'll kind of give you some prods to kind of work around it. But no, I'm not going to help you finish it because it's your painting. I'm going to finish it different than you will once we learn the basic techniques, even if we're painting from the same photograph.
So you could maybe teach us how to make clouds that don't look like sheep.
Among other things, yes. Somebody's after Bethan.
Yeah, that's my mama calling.
Okay. Was there any other? Jay Richardson says, just like engraving, no two people engrave the same way. And Carrie Augustine says, thank you, Bethan Davies, very much. And
complimenting her artwork. She deserves it.
Then there's a couple of people that, let's see, who's running CraftStar for you today?
Me and Ron. Oh, running this right now, Rhonda. That will be Rhonda Green.
So she's dual boxing.
Multi-personality, yes.
We knew about her split personality, so that's what makes her so much fun. Carrie enjoyed the painting. You know, and if it looks finished to people, that's the problem with being an artist. And most people don't understand is we don't always see when it's finished. We always see something that can be fixed or that is missing or it feels like it needs something else. And that's not always the case. It's like that painting over my shoulder, right shoulder. That one back there. That originally I was going to put one of the old twisted trees in it, but the more it sat, the more it dried, the more the colors lifted up off of the canvas and became more vivid, the less it needed something more on it. So a lot of times I'll take the painting and I'll put it away. Just kind of set it over, let it dry. Okay, then we'll go back and look at it. And then we may enhance it a little bit. We may adjust something if it needs it. Or we may just leave it alone and put it up for sale. Do you ever do anything like that with your jewelry?
I think all of us do that. We've got something in our head, and what might look finished to one person is not finished to us. You know, there's always, it's also, you know, no matter what you make, I'm looking around all the weird stuff I make, you don't know, sometimes I love layers. I love layers. I love multimedia. So sometimes you just don't know when to stop. And then when it just gets too big or too heavy, you think, hey, this is looking ridiculous. And that's what makes you stop. But, you know, somebody might think after 10 layers before that it was finished, where in my head it still had that extra 10 layers to go. But I think that's the beauty of art, that we all see it in different ways.
Oh, okay. You're referring to what those in what I do refer to as mixed media, where you use multiple types of items, like maybe scraps that you could throw away in the trash, or something you found on the side of the road that you kind of recycle it and use it in your artwork or something like that. No, I've never done anything like that. I admire the people that do, but I can't look at a washer without thinking of the car, because I'm a certified diesel and auto mechanic, as well as some of the other things I've done in life. So I see a washer and go, okay, where did this not go on when it should have?
Well, Rhonda's a great example of that, actually, because she hooked up with a bike repair shop, and she uses their old parts to create jewelry, and they're amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the way people can partner together is also really awesome.
Well, if we can convince her from being so shy and talk about her art a little bit and show us some of it, maybe we can. With your help, maybe with your help, we can coerce her to join us here on.
Yeah, absolutely. Her bike stuff's wonderful.
That sounds really neat. I know I'd like to have Jay on the show sometime in the future. He does some beautiful engraving, but he's as busy as a one-armed paper hanger most of the time. In fact, June for me is just as bad. Help if people can see me, I guess. You're such a better profile on camera than me. So.
Well, we could have a party. Everybody could jump in.
Well, I'm game. It looks like we can finish up a little bit earlier here today. So if anybody wants to join us in the show or in the green room here, I'd be more than happy to have you. And because I think, other than wrapping it up, I don't think there's too much else we need to cover today. Again, Bethan, if you'll do me the favor of reminding everybody what you do now and where we can find you and how you help other artists.
I am the founder and CEO of the CraftStar.com. We are the shopping mall for boutiques of creative small businesses. And we really try to focus on the sellers and education and encouragement and everything that creative people need, because creative people need a different touch than most of the normal people. Creativity, as we keep saying, what is a blessing and a burden, and we focus on both and educate about both and how to handle it. So you can find me at Bethan at thecraftstar.com, and that's it. So thank you so much for having me. Really, really appreciate it.
It's wonderful having you, get to know you a little better, have our talks. Also, for those who didn't notice, over in the show details at the bottom, there's a little poll over there. There's 3 questions I would like your help with. We're against, right now, WhaTheArt is in a time slot for 2 shows, and one of them I would love to watch. The other one I'm going to have to watch a replay whether I move the show or not. There's Carmen Rojas's Camel Jacket, and I love watching Carmen. She always brings such informative information, and in order to even get her on the show as a guest one of these times, we can't have a show at the same time. Mm-hmm. Art is a different feel, and people have a different time. They like to enjoy art, talking about art, learning how business and art works, or how social media and business can work together in your producing and selling your art. So I need your information if you can. The easy part about it is there's no names. I don't care about names. Nobody's going to grade you on this thing. I just need to answer the 3 simple questions. What day of the week, what time frame, and what time zone you're in. And I don't care where in the world it is. If you can supply me with that, we will adjust the show to be convenient for everybody that responds. And we can then hopefully adjust where we can bring you some additional guests in the future.
And where can they find these 3 questions?
They're over in the event details.
Okay, great.
They're at the very bottom of the event details where it says viewers. When you're looking at the event details, it's right above it when you open the Read More section. But just below all the information about Bethan.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Oh, that's my mama here. Thank you so much, Tim, and we'll talk really soon.
Thank you for coming. Thanks, everyone, for stopping by. If you're interested in prints of any of my art, longwellart.com is where you can find everything. And if you have anything you'd like to see me address, or a tent painting and everything, feel free to find me either at Longwell Art here on Google Plus or Tim Longwell. Everyone have a good week. We'll be back in 2 weeks because I've got a lot of things going on, including a special festival where I will be demonstrating my paintings in Okmulgee, Oklahoma at the fairgrounds. So if you happen to be in the Oklahoma area and go over by Okmulgee, do stop on by and say hi. Good day, everyone. Take care. Bethan, have an enjoyable afternoon. And
thank you so much.